Your question was about the Chinese outbreak, right? I don't really call it an outbreak because it's just a routine cold season pneumonia problem. And they're not even calling it a severe acute respiratory syndrome like that. They're calling it just acute respiratory infection, which is common with influenza, para-influenza, respiratory syncytial virus infection, adenovirus, and now this one. This is called human metapneumovirus, HMPV, and it's not a new virus. It's common. It was described first in 2001, but it existed even before that. That was the first time it was identified in Netherlands, and it's a kind of endemic, but it is also worldwide. So, endemic in China, United States, Europe, Australia, Israel. These are the countries where they are seen a lot of them, but they are worldwide. And so I would not really call it an outbreak, and I don't think we need to worry about it yet, but there are some factors that are favorable and some that are unfavorable, and I'm going to touch on both of them. The favorable thing is that by the age of 5, all children in the endemic area get infected. And this is comparable to the respiratory syncytial virus, where every child is infected before the age of 2 years. So it is not a rare disease, and the unfavorable thing is that any virus can mutate and take a new form. The SARS that came in 2003 was not as dangerous as the one that came in 2019 because it mutated and developed new characters. So the same thing can happen with any virus. And it can manifest as reinfections. So people get infected in the childhood and then they get reinfected. And most of the new infections in China now are in children below the age of 14 years anyway. But it can also affect people with low immunity, older people. They are also getting infected. I don't have any statistics of their death rate or anything like that, but they are just comparable to flu. And majority of infections are comparable to common cold. And they just pass off like that.
Did it come as a surprise to you?
Well,
has it come as a surprise?
I think what happened was people have become kind of focused on infections after the COVID-19. Otherwise, this would not have been even under the radar, So that's why we are concerned about it a lot more than otherwise. The really dangerous part of this infection and any other viral infection is that we don't have any treatment or vaccines against most of these infections. So, and this human metapneumovirus, HMPV, is also come under that. We don't have any vaccine, we don't have any treatment. We just have to treat symptomatically. That's all we need to know about this, and if anything changes and they mutate and start spreading worldwide, that will become a problem, because if they mutate and spread all over, that's what happened to COVID-19 also. This is the raw material for viruses to mutate and produce new variants. If there is only few infections, their raw material is low, And so the mutation rate and new variants are also low. But if it becomes widespread with a bad infection, it can create worse infections. And that is something to be watching for. But other than that, right now, we won't worry about it. Okay. They have started insisting on masks and all that in a lot of places. I think it is overdoing it, and I come to the issue of mask again later, when I go through the pandemic management. Coming to the pandemic management, which is my pet project anyway.
Before we do that, I have to say, the last story we did with you, your headline, your remarks about how the bats got their revenge, we irritated the bats, and they got their revenge.
Yeah.
That got a bit of a buzz, with our readers. People identified with that and thought you were onto something there. So I just share that with you.
Oh, okay, yeah. They liked it, the Revenge of the Bats. Okay. I have different stories in that book, Snake and Ladder story, Revenge of the Bats.
We'll do those on another day, but yeah. So today's topic, what do you want to discuss today?
General pandemic management, different aspects. For example, humanity is really playing a Russian roulette now. Because, let me tell you a story. A Indian god asks one of the mythological characters, human form, what is the greatest wonder in human life? And the answer is that until you get hit with old age or terminal illness, until you reach that stage, everybody thinks that the death is for somebody else, not for that person. And that keeps our life going, which is good, but that is away from the reality. And so the WHO, as subhuman beings, so they don't have the intelligence, they don't know if they're getting sick or they're dying or anything. But we were given the intelligence, and so that brings on a lot of suffering, including the fear of death. And so to suppress that, this is a mechanism that is given to us because we all think we're okay. Only other people can die. So that same thing is happening in the form of our pandemic expectations. Like WHO said, we go through a cycle of panic and then forget. And so we get into that comfort zone where we think, it's not going to happen again. The death is for somebody else, And that we take away our preparation for the next pandemic. We don't aggressively prepare. And that we giving the future of our health to the virus. The virus decides when to hit and when to hurt us. And it's not in our control. We can easily do that, but we are going into that stage of panic, then forget, like WHO said. And so that is the problem that can create new pandemics and us being not prepared. There is a unanimous opinion that we did not do well through the pandemic management. There is another unanimous opinion right now that if another pandemic comes now, we are just as unprepared, like we were in 2020. So that's not a healthy situation. That is telling on our preparedness, for our willingness to prepare for a future climate. And there are other organisms waiting in line, like the Nipah virus, the Ebola, and even the HMPV can mutate and create a new problem for us. And when they become dangerous airborne infections. And that's when we have to be careful because of our international travel and all those things. Contact infection, we can easily control. We just avoid it. But when it is spreading through the air, that needs a special consideration. And that is not as easy as avoiding contact infection or tissue fluid infection, that's different. We got into this trap. There are some indisputable facts about the infectivity, and from time immemorial, people have been talking about miasma. Miasma means spread through the air. Initially they were not thinking about organisms. They were thinking about magic through the air, causing infection. So then came the era of Charles Chaplin. Charles Chaplin is a famous American epidemiologist, and he was very powerful, very influential, and in many new research people's opinion, he did a lot of harm to our preparedness, public health management, because he insisted that there is no airborne. He was ridiculing the idea of airborne infection, and he was saying the only infection is spray-borne directly or through contact. It was kind of acceptable until the one that I am promoting now, the air conditioners. Air conditioners completely change the whole picture. And really, we should not be going back to the hundreds of years old methods like mask and all those in the new situation where the air conditioners are acting like vector equivalents. That's what I think. And throughout the book, I have brought up some ideas that we should consider in preparing for the pandemic. One of them is that the virus smoke. I did talk about it. People talk about the droplets and the aerosols as if they're going to settle down and they're going to disappear. They are not going to disappear. They're going to dry up, and the virus nuclei are going to be released. Either they are directly suspended into the air, or they are going to be lying around on the floor and kicked around and resuspended. Either way, they get suspended into the air, and they are smaller than smoke particles. And so they have no reason to come down and settle to the ground again. Once they are released, they are there. And in the presence of air conditioners, this is where the things change. In the presence of air conditioners, these they promoted the air movement inside the room. They promoted the virus to be released and converted into smoke, one thing. Another thing, they took the air from one room to the rest of the building, and they helped infect the whole building instead of individuals close to the patient, the patient or even healthy carriers. That is another thing that we did not know. 50% of infection came from asymptomatic people. And so there will be people sitting in a room and spreading this virus and giving it to the air conditioner. They're taking it to the rest of the building. So a source of infection could be in room A, and there may not be anything in room B, C, D or anything, but they can get infected there. That's because the building gets infected. This concept was never stressed. And
it's still not being stressed,
no,
to be honest.
No. Many of the things that I'm talking about that's in the book, people have not accepted it because they have not considered it. I'm sure they will accept it once they consider it and analyze it and find out, yes, there is some truth in it. In the 1918 pandemic, the flu pandemic, the percentage of American deaths to the world death was 1.35%. And in the COVID-19, it became 17%. What happened in the 20th century when we were the most powerful country in the world with most advanced health care? What happened? The only thing was this air conditioner, which was missed by these experts. They never considered the concept of air balloon. See, I'm saying any air conditioned unit, like a car or building, is like a balloon with one inlet and one outlet. That's all. And you cannot have cross ventilation through that. If you do that, the air conditioning is gone. So that contributed to the spread of the infection, and especially in cold climate, and that also is contributing to the seasonal flu, hospital infections. All these have the same contribution, at least some contribution from this weakness of air conditioner. Air conditioning is very good. We all need it. We are not going to give up air conditioning, but we have to modify it like I suggested. So what happened? I did go through the differences between bacterial infection and viral invasion. The bacterial infection is a short-term thing. They come like a hurricane, destroy some building, kill some businesses, and they're gone. They may come back again next year, but that's okay, but they're not going to linger around. Viral invasions, I don't call it infection, viral invasion is like a military invasion. They come and take over your cells, take over your body functions. And that is harder to defeat. For example, antibiotics. Antibiotics, they circulate in the blood and tissue fluid and all that. They can kill the bacteria. So they're bactericidal. Antivirals, they have to go into the cell to be of any effect. And when they do that, and they hurt the virus, in the process they hurt our cells also. So it is not it's a double-edged weapon. That's why there are no effective antivirals. Like antibiotics, we don't have antivirals. Now, we talk about vaccines. Everybody starts in home, we got the vaccine. Vaccine is not such a uniform relief. It has some drawback. The best example I can say is that when there is a viral invasion, the vaccine can be roadblocks, but they're not like a border wall. That has to be something else. And so, vaccine, I'll come back to the vaccine again, because that's what I want to stress today about the vaccine. Masks. Now, when you talk about the mask, there are two types of masks. One is the one that we are promoting with the PPBD. That is airtight. No air is passing around the mask or through the mask material. Even the N95, the most useful mask, the most advanced mask, the air has to pass through that and or around it. And when that happens, the viruses can get in. It will protect you from spray-borne. If you are standing in front of a guy and he's coughing, it will protect. And it will also protect source protection. If you are the patient or the healthy carrier and you wear the mask, the droplets won't come out. That's good. But if you accept the concept of viral smoke, mask is not going to be useful, because it will be like asking you to wear a mask to prevent smoke inhalation. You cannot do that. As long as you have to go in there and smoke, breathe that air, you're going to get smoke inhalation. So that the same way. But the one that we are promoting is the PPBD mask is different. It's a airtight mask, and the only air you will be breathing will be the one that is coming through the disinfected unit. You can be standing next to the patient and talking, but you won't get the virus into your system. That's the thing. Now, social distancing. I'm not going to go into the details because I did it before. If to be effective, social distancing means 6 feet distance. If the patient or carrier moves from this part, the one behind has to wait for 8 minutes, minimum 8 minutes before getting into that spot. Otherwise, it is worthless. So that's bad. Lockdowns are like underground tunnels. People hiding underground tunnels to protect it. They will either run out of food and water, or they have to come out and face the invader outside. So they have only two options, So lockdowns are not the solution. I want to talk a little bit more about the vaccines. Okay, the vaccines, there are actually two types of vaccines broadly. One is the toxoid, like the tetanus toxoid, diphtheria toxoid. That is not against the organisms. There is about the toxins produced by them. Then the other kind is against the organism. And that can be two types also. One is whole virus thing, or whole pathogen thing, like smallpox vaccine. It's for, they developed the vaccine from cowpox. And it is live attenuated vaccine or killed vaccine. They sound different, but both of them have one common factor. They have all the antigens carried by the pathogen. Okay. J.D. Burrell, in 2017, he described that, put this into word. This is common sense. Okay. He put it into word by saying, if the vaccine is closest to the pathogen, then it will have a better effect. And now there are two ways this can go wrong. One is the denaturing process. If you are inactivating the pathogen by formalin or some powerful chemical or heat or method that will destroy, like a cluster bombing, that antigen loses its potency and its power is less. Live attenuated is, they are live vaccines. That means all the proteins are there, but they have the risk of causing the infection if they somehow get activated in the body. Very small percentage, but it is genuine. But in principle, both of them use the whole pathogen antigen lineup. All of the antigens are used. Different from this is the fragment vaccine. Can I show you a picture? Okay. This is a rough picture I drew it. Okay. So imagine this is the virus, and this is the fragment virus, fragment vaccine. And this is the polyvalent multi-antigen vaccine, like the whole organism, like dead or live attenuated. Both of them are like that. Okay. So let me explain this. When you have a fragment vaccine, that means out of the four, for example, COVID, it has 4 structural proteins. But the mRNA has only one antigen, the S protein, one of the 4. So what happens is, this is a random, continuous process of mutation, and they're mutating. So this is a spot, the virus is weak because of this spot. It corrects it, it repairs that. This antibody has no effect on that. That is called evasion, vaccine evasion. Suppose we have multiple antigens. The virus has no brain. and it has no memory process. Randomly, it repairs the one antigen, one antibody, repairs that spot. So this antibody becomes ineffective. But the other three are killing the virus. So now the virus doesn't keep this in storage and say, now let me go to the number 2. It doesn't do that. It discards this one that did not protect. Then it goes, another one may be here, another one may be here, but all 4 of them have to be destroyed at the same time for the virus to evade vaccine. We all know about the flu vaccine, and flu vaccine does work. I take flu vaccine, and we transferred that protection idea into the mRNA for COVID-19. Big mistake, because there's very fast evasion and vaccine evasion in that. That's why after 3 months, everybody lost the protection. And then they say, now there is a movement to produce mRNA vaccine for everybody. And they are trying to replace the live attenuated flu vaccine into an mRNA flu vaccine. I hope it will not go through, because we will get into the same problem where the evasion will be so fast. But the company that's experimenting the mRNA vaccine for flu is, I'll give you the article if you want, is saying that mRNA vaccine is better than the live attenuated flu vaccine. I don't know what scientific basis that has got. Now, I am saying all these things. I may have to have federal protection. I'm just telling you, because, in my opinion, this is the wrong direction for vaccine development. Now, vaccine does not protect everybody also. So vaccine is like saying, let's develop vaccine. It's like you say, let's treat headache. Headache can be due to brain tumor. It could be just stress from the day. You don't know what it is. So, but just there cannot be one treatment for all headaches. So the same way, vaccine cannot treat everything. Vaccine has to be developed specifically for specific condition. For example, sometimes there is no vaccine, right? I was explaining malaria the other day. Of the 164 billion people who walked on there, malaria seems to have killed 50 to 60 billion people. 1/3 of whole human race was eliminated by malaria. And we don't have an FDA-approved vaccine for that. We don't have an effective vaccine for that. So vaccine is not the final answer for everything. We have to look at every situation in a very useful way. And that's why I have talked about the contactless vaccine. Now, we can make the vaccine against the viruses better, but not by picking just one antigen or mutilating it with formalin. They tried to the Covaxin and CoronaVac. They have very good principle, whole virus vaccine, but their inactivation techniques probably denatured the antigens. That's one of the theories that I read somewhere. What we have to do is to inactivate the virus without damaging the proteins. There is a study that they found out that they can do that for 2 proteins, but they are not done for all 4 proteins. But you can extrapolate and say that if they can protect 2 proteins and just destroy only the genome, I call it neutered virus. The virus cannot multiply anymore, but for all other purposes, it has maintained its normal structure. And that is what we need. And if we have a neutered virus released through the air conditioning into the room, people can be sitting there and playing cards or or chess game, just a limited number of hours in that room, they can breathe the air with a neuter virus and they get immunized. And the application of this is even more useful in remote areas. You can take, so for example, a mobile home and feed the live virus into it, disinfect it, produce the neutered virus, and release it into the room, and you can immunize people. And that can be done to all the remote areas of the world. So anyway, this is my pet theory that fragmented vaccine have a limited use in future. We have to have whole pathogen, or at least even two antigens will be a lot better than just one. The virus will have to go back and forth to find mutation. What do we do for pandemic control? That's my pet whole project, right? Pandemic control, vaccine is not the primary thing. Vaccine is the backup, because I have explained all the harm the virus can do, permanent resident inside the body, and destroy the organs and stay there and create problems later. We don't want the virus to get into the body. So disinfecting the air you breathe and preventing the virus getting into your body, that is the primary plan, not jumping up and trying to work on the vaccine. That is not the primary goal. So how do we do that? We can do that by combining the self-cleaning airflow that I explained the other day. So the air should be circulating in the room. If the air is going out through the top, it has to come down at the ground level, or the reverse. Either way, the air has to circulate the whole room before it can get out, and that will carry the viruses with it. And then that air has to be disinfected if you want to recirculate it. You can do that through the air conditioner, or if you want to do it at the personal level, you can do the personal protection device.
So we always want to keep these videos to about 30 minutes, which we've done here today.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, and we'll obviously have more to talk about next time, I want to go back to something you said when you talked about we have a panic and then we forget, right? And you're saying that it's common parlance now. It's accepted that we are not ready for the next one. That the community panics, and then when the panic's over,
I have some suggestions.
You're saying that the medical community
I have some suggestions.
That's the way it is.
I have some suggestions. Number one, some kind of ordinance to modify the air conditions in the existing buildings. Number two, some kind of powerful ordinance that new buildings should be having the circulating air. Number three, you should encourage hospitals to stock up some personal bioprotection devices to be able to give to the first responders, so that when they won't be thrown into the pandemic or the outbreak without protection. This is like wearing a vest against the bullet coming to you. So you have to go with that. Hospitals should be encouraged to include this unit in the ventilators. During the COVID, let me explain to you, about 90 to 95% of people who were on the ventilators died in New York. One ventilator was used for 2 or 3 patients. How effective is that in preventing one person's infection not getting into the other? So that ventilators should be having this unit so that virus that a patient brings out will not go back to him or anybody else. And they should use that on anesthesia machines. So just because you are COVID, you cannot deny medical care. But if you do an anesthesia with that patient, the anesthesia machine can get contaminated. And it is very difficult to clean that thoroughly of all the virus. So that should have a unit like this. So if you have the clear air circulation, ventilators equipped with this, individuals provided with the unit, anesthesia machine protected, I have a very good feeling that the pandemic will not happen. You can stop it at the outbreak level.
Well, that is a great place to stop. Dr.
Yes.
Pisharodi, thank you so much
for
enlightening us again.
Okay.
Enlightening us, and we look forward to the next chapter, the next discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Was it useful today?
So many different angles.
Okay.
So many different angles. Thank you. Very good.